You're listening to the Adventure Sports Podcast. Thanks for adventuring with us as we discover what incredible athletes and outdoor enthusiasts are doing all over the world. Now here's your host, Kurt Linville.
Hey friends, welcome to the Adventure Sports Podcast. Today is Monday, January the 12th. That matters because I'm talking to you from the past. Right now, as you're listening to this, I am somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean or the African continent in an airplane flying to Tanzania to climb Kilimanjaro. Super excited about that. I am pre-posting this episode so that the Adventure Sports Podcast can continue to roll while I'm out of the country. So we're going to keep on posting episodes, and I also am going to have a couple of episodes that are from the Backpacking and Blisters podcast. They're going to guest host for the Adventure Sports Podcast while I'm out, so that'll be a lot of fun. Those guys are hilarious. And upon my return, I'm going to put together an episode that features all the climbers that are on Kilimanjaro, and we'll give you a bit of a play-by-play about that trip. So really looking forward to all of that. Thank you so much for your thoughts and support as we climb Kilimanjaro. Now on with the episode. Hi friends, thanks for joining the Adventure Sports Podcast today. This show is going to be so much fun. I can already tell. Wendy, Crockett, and I have been just talking before we hit record. I finally said we have to hit record. This is too good. So we're just having fun swapping motorcycle stories. Wendy Crockett holds a Guinness World Record for the longest distance covered in a single ride in a single country. She also has won the Iron Butt Rally at least once. We're going to have to talk about that because I saw different sources citing different numbers. But anyway, that's a 11-day, 11,000-mile rally. She is a endurance motorcycle rider. She is a motorcycle mechanic. She actually owns her own motorcycle shop, and she has been all around the world. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about her unique approach to enjoying motorcycles. Wendy, welcome to the Adventure Sports Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Curtis.
So, Wendy, where are you right now? Just because I think it's fun.
I am in Aguascalientes, Mexico. 2 days ago, I was in Santa Cruz, California. So that's one of the hidden superpowers of people that do long distances is I can just say yes, and then 2,000 miles
jump on the bike
road.
And go. Yeah, most people, when they think of Mexico, they think about the airplane, not the motorcycle.
Do. Right. There is so much beauty in Mexico, so many incredible things to see riding through here. If I possibly can ride, I will.
Oh, that's fantastic. And what's home base for you?
Home base is Rapid City, South Dakota in the Black Hills.
And the riding in the Black Hills, I've seen videos and pictures, and it just looks like so much fun.
It's a nice secret that we have up there. A lot of people, when they think of South Dakota, they think of the open prairies, and we definitely have a lot of that, but the Black Hills are just fantastic for motorcycles, bicycles, hiking. It's a great place to be.
I've been there 3 times at least, but never on a motorcycle. Every time I was there, you're in those nice, beautiful switchbacks curving around the small mountains, and I just think, wow, this would be so fun. So much fun.
Absolutely. Perfectly designed for motorcycles.
Even though it probably wasn't, right? I think that's one of the things about motorcycles is we're always riding on a surface that wasn't really designed for a motorcycle. But motorcycles are just so versatile. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you get into motorcycles? There's so much to cover here. We're going to have to zero in on something, but just tell us the story. When did you start riding and why?
So I get that question a lot, and I think the most honest answer is I was just born this way. Like, I did not come from a riding family. Nobody in my family owned a motorcycle, and I just, from a very young age, like junior high school, I would see motorcycles and they just spoke to my soul. Like, that is the way, that is meant for me. And of course, my mom said over her dead body. So I turned 18 and moved out and started buying motorcycles.
Well, my dad was not really a fan of me having a motorcycle, but he gave in. And I ended up starting, I guess I was 12 years old when I started riding. And I probably put 10,000 hours on my little Yamaha Enduro 100. before I turned 18. I just rode it nonstop. I'm just like you. From the very first time I saw a motorcycle, I just thought, I've got to do that. So anyway, I understand where you're coming from. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just
really fun.
It's such a visceral way to interact with the world. There's just very little else like it.
Oh, that's so true. You've probably seen this, and I'm sure our listeners have probably seen this too, but there's an ad out there where they start it by saying, cars lie to us, but motorcycles tell the truth. Have you heard that?
I haven't heard that one. I heard another one that was saying driving in a car is like watching a movie, and riding a motorcycle is like being in the movie. And that's
agree.
a really accurate descriptor as well.
Well, why do you love it so much?
I think a big part of it is I ride solo is another aspect of that. So there is something about exposing yourself that way to the elements, to the dance of the road, to the animals, the smells, the people, especially when you are riding solo. People really feel free to approach you in a way that you kind of don't. The more friends you have with you, you kind of create this little bubble, and that you're in your bubble that is separate from the world around you. But as a solo traveler, people are really fascinated. Did you ride this here? Where are you coming from? Where are you headed? Let me tell you what is great about my town or my country or my village. So it's a very, very unique way to experience a country. And I think every new set of wheels you add creates kind of this bigger bubble around you. Mm-hmm. So motorcycles, bicycles, walking are incredible. And then cars and buses and everything else are just one more step removed from that magic.
It really is true. I think when we're in cars, people even have different personalities when they drive cars. Have you noticed that?
Absolutely.
But on a motorcycle, you kind of have to be real. I mean, you are out there. You could use the word exposed, but I prefer available, approachable.
Right.
And it's just so much more real. You're not hiding behind a windshield or a ton or more of glass and steel, Right. So here's another aspect that I think is super cool, and I want you to comment on this. In a car, I feel like I'm sitting in something and it's doing something, and I'm just kind of in it, right? But on the motorcycle, I mean, it's almost weird. I pet my motorcycle. I hate to admit that, but it feels like it's a part of me, or it's alive. And when you're riding it, the whole motorcycle has to move and shift with you. You're like one thing, not like I'm something in a car, right? On a motorcycle, I feel like you kind of become one with the machine, and we anthropomorphize that. I know I've talked to so many motorcyclists who go, oh yeah, I named mine such and such, and and what is it about motorcycles that they almost feel like they're a part of it?
It is. I think definitely it's much more of an extension of your body. And the more I ride, the more car sick I get, because I am so used to that motion, that sway, being, completely present and interactive with that ride in a way that we're just not in a four-wheeled vehicle. So it's definitely, for me, it feels like when you hear people describe when they're on Ritalin, how, it just kind of slows everything else down, and you just have this pinpoint that you can focus on quietly. And that's what motorcycles are for me. All of that background noise of life fades away, and you're just present right there in that moment, just fully engaged with the ride.
Wow. Well, I have not done anything like the distance you've done, and that's a unique approach to motorcycles. A lot of people like to tour, but the idea of being on a motorcycle for, a dozen hours, maybe 24 hours, you just go and go and go and go and go. So you're an endurance rider. Tell us what that's about.
The endurance riding, the kind of base entry level to be considered a member of the Iron Butt Association, which is a group that oversees the sport of safe long distance riding, is 1,000 miles or 1,610 kilometers in 24 hours. So if you are on high speed highways and you're keeping an average of, say, 70 miles an hour, it's less than 15 hours of riding. So it's not really, really time consuming. People immediately, their approach is like, that's not even mathematically possible. No, it's really possible as long as you're not fooling around a lot when you're stopping and things like that. But there's also people that do 1,000 miles in 24 hours on dirt bikes, or they plan scavenger hunt type events. So you are gathering points by visiting places and documenting doing things, whether you're needing to go visit a nudist colony and take a picture of yourself in your riding gear in a hot tub, or take a tour of a museum and catch a picture of a certain exhibit. So that adds kind of this silly, fun treasure hunt element to the sport that really makes it easy to go, just a few more miles down the road.
Oh, that's fun. Before we hit record, I was relating to you that I'm on a DRZ 400, and they're notorious for having very uncomfortable seats. And, I mean, if I get it, I'm usually off-road. I don't know what the conversion factor would be for exhaustion or stress or tired, on the body compared to off-road versus the pavement. I don't know what that conversion factor is, but there is one. But 100 miles on my DRZ is enough. I am bushed. And my derriere is well past well done by that point. So how on earth, if you're going to be on a motorcycle for 15 hours or more, what sort of considerations do you have to make sure that you can be comfortable in?
Well, I will say the best investment I have made in my rallying motorcycle is in a custom. And I work with a company called Russell Daylong that takes your stock seat pan and basically crafts the seat to your butt. And it is the most comfortable place in the world for me to be sitting. My husband has a Russell Daylong and I have a Russell Daylong, and we both love ours and we hate each other's.
Because they're made for the individual.
Exactly. They did such a good job of fitting it to each of us individually. But I have a tall windscreen, and that helps create a quiet, calm bubble for me to sit in. I have water on the bike so I can hydrate as I ride, and it's just a very comfortable place to be.
Wow. Well, when I do something like 100-mile day off-road, I'm in recovery the next day. I am just exhausted. So, to
be fair, those seats are designed to do a different job. But in the last few years, I've been impressed to start seeing some of the stereotypical dirt bike hard as a board seats are getting a little more comfy. I actually did the Iron Butt Rally last year on a fresh off the showroom floor Chinese dirt bike with the stock seat and everything. And I was really impressed at what a good job they did on making that off-road seat a lot more comfortable. So hopefully,
boy, I'm going to stretching my knowledge. Was it a beta?
It was a Zontes. It's actually not available in the U.S., but
Zontes.
Yeah, they're available in a lot of the rest of the world. So it was a 703 Adventure, the model that I rode.
Well, you have won the Iron Butt Rally. Okay, how many times? Because I know you've been in it many times, but
yes. So I've been in it 7 times, and I won 1 time. I've podiumed several times. I also came in 3rd place and had some close finishes, but just the 1 win.
So how do you win the Iron Butt Rally? Explain this event to us.
The Iron Butt Rally is an 11-day, 11,000-mile head-to-head competition. And basically you show up at the starting line the night before or the morning of the start of the rally, depending on that year's theme. They will give you a list of bonus locations. It may be 100, it may be 500 points on a map. They all have different point values. They all have something that you need to do there to prove that you were there. And you need to plan the route as efficiently as possible to get as many points as possible without missing time-limited checkpoint window.
So, cool.
Yeah. So
not everyone is doing the same route then?
Everybody is planning their own route. And so some people get in it just to finish, and they want to see as many beautiful things as possible, and they'll select their bonus locations for whatever is the most interesting things that they want to go see. And then the people that really want to place well will completely disregard whatever it is that they are going to see or do and just put together the highest point value route that they can. So there's definitely something for everyone that gets into the Iron Butt Rally. Everybody gets to the end and go, man, I'm exhausted. I'm not sure I'll do it again. And 3 months later, they're saying, when do I have to have my name in for the next Iron Butt Rally?
Of course. It's a little bit of the type 2 fun. So much of adventure sports is like that, but you feel like you accomplished something. It's exhausting, but when you reflect on it in a couple of days, it's like, wow, okay, that was cool.
Yeah. And it's really, the ultimate vacation. Just imagine showing up at the starting line hotel and you have no idea where you're going to be in the next 11 days across the entire width and depth of North America. You may be in Dead Horse, Alaska. You may be in Cap de Rose in Canada or Newfoundland, or I've been in Miami in the middle of the night in the eye of a hurricane, in just this eerie calm as the only person on the road, just puttering through there at 2 a.m. Just these wonderful experiences out there in life that you would never, ever have occasion to have outside of this strange pursuit.
Oh, man. You have so much expertise in motorcycles. I've ridden a lot, but I'm a real hack. You're the one who knows how to make it work the right way. Do you have any tips for people let's start with just doing a long ride, things that you'd be like, okay, this really matters?
I would say the first most important thing to know is there is no right way. The important thing is that you get out there and do it. If this is speaking to you and you keep making excuses, just do it. The very best bike to have an adventure on is whatever bike you own right now, assuming it is roadworthy. And, I have done big rides on 100cc Chinese bikes, on sidecar rigs, big bikes, small displacement bikes, mid displacement bikes. All bikes are good at something. So, don't hold back waiting for that mythical perfect bike to or mode of transportation in general to float into your life, because there will always be something better down the road. There'll always be an excuse. I took my Yamaha FJR, which is a sport touring bike, up beyond the Arctic Circle to a town called Inuvik. And I returned from the trip and did a little write-up on the journey. And I had so many people on the internet saying, why did you take your FJR to Inuvik? That was stupid. Right. You should have, ridden bike A, B, C, or D. And it's like, well, you're still sitting behind your keyboard telling me what I did wrong. And I've been to Inuvik. So
That's exactly it. You couldn't have said that better. Sometimes you just have to go. And I often say on this program, people worry too much about the gear, whatever the sport is. And it's fun to get really kind of be a gearhead and get really techie about it. It's part of the enjoyment of a sport, but you don't have to. And you don't have to wait to have the money for the expensive perfect thing. Like you just said, the right thing to go out on is what you have right now.
Absolutely.
So, that's fun. I've heard so many debates about adventure motorcycles because they're trying to bridge the gap between comfort on the highway for long distance and still being able to get off-road without having to worry too much about the challenges that a street bike would have, in difficult dirt situations. And it seems like everyone's trying to build the perfect hybrid, but I don't think it exists. What do you think?
I entirely agree. And that's the reason I have 14 motorcycles, is because they're all perfect at something. They all have some fun aspect to their personality that makes them great. But, and I will readily admit there are a lot of fantastic adventure bikes out there that far exceed. I am the weakest link in that machine. Absolutely no question about it. But do I need an 800-pound machine to do the types of ride that I'm enjoying? And I'm really happy to start seeing the industry skewing more towards small and mid-displacement bikes, because I really think it opens up this type of adventure to a whole new group of people when it's a low-risk, high-reward situation on a much smaller, lighter bike that you can say, hey, where does that path go? That's a steep road up to that little village. Well, I'll check it out, because worst case scenario, this is a pretty lightweight bike if I need to pick it back up.
Oh, that's fun. So just for fun, you have a lot of motorcycles. You have a motorcycle shop. You've been doing this a long time. So You don't have to tell me your favorite, okay, because that's really hard for us to sort out. There are too many wonderful things about bikes. But if I name a style of trip, a style of ride, can you say, well, here's an example of a bike that would be good for...
Sure.
Because I think that would be good for the listeners. A lot of listeners, they don't ride motorcycles yet. And I'm going to say yet because I think everyone should give it a go. It's a lot of fun. But let's say that you're a beginner and you just want to learn to ride and you've decided not to ride on the streets yet. You're going to be riding on back roads, dirt roads, things.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, a fantastic way to start always is like the TW200. They are the most forgiving little bikes. That's a Yamaha with kind of fat, chunky tires. And they've got enough power to get you in and out of places. Very forgiving with those, the big fat tires, a nice part of your suspension system. They will just go and go and go forever. So definitely a great starter.
Okay, and what's the drawback to that motorcycle?
You're not going to have, it is not a highway bike. It is, it will be hard pressed if you were trying to keep up with interstate traffic, for sure. It's probably not the lightest thing out there, but it's ubiquitous. You can get parts for it, which is important. Important
yes.
aspect that I think of as a mechanic that not everybody does, parts availability.
I'm running into that right now just because my motorcycle is 21 years old. So I was just trying to order a new clutch cable, and I'm like, none of these look like they're right. So I ended up just ordering one so I could mess with it. But that's kind of stuff you run into. Okay, here's the next ride. I told you before I hit record, my dream is to go to Iceland and do the highway that goes around the coast. But then I also want to cross over the top, so I get some dirt in and some high passes and that kind of thing. So what kind of a motorcycle, or maybe it takes more than one, but what kind of motorcycle would you recommend for a trip like that?
Yeah, see, that would be a great one for one of the bigger adventure bikes. An Africa Twin, Super Tenere would be a great choice for that. Of course, you got BMW, just about any of their GSs, starting from the small ones up to the bigger ones. I'm definitely partial for longer trips like that to a bike that has a shaft drive, and you get less power to the ground, but it's way lower maintenance. So when you're looking for something that's going to be nimble on a variety of road surfaces like you'd find in Iceland, but you may have big mile days to get between places where you can camp or spend the night or find food, you're going to want, and that you're going to be doing less like single track type things, presumably on the roads in Iceland. You've got limited road choices, so you don't need to be so worried about the weight on that one.
Okay, and we were just visiting about what it would be like to ride in Tanzania. So what motorcycle would you select for that?
You've got a lot of sand in Tanzania, a lot of loose surfaces. So definitely a smaller displacement bike. So something like the Himalayan 450 from Royal Enfield is a really nice kind of middle of the road. You could get definitely more into a more aggressive dirt bike situation, more of a enduro than a dual sport or adventure bike. But again, the question is going to be, as you get real lightweight, you also are losing fuel capacity. So what are those distances going to be that you're trying to cover each day? And is it worth the weight trade-off of a slightly porkier bike that can get you the fuel range you need?
Yeah, I have an extra gallon on the back of my motorcycle at all times for that very reason.
I have an extra 4.5 gallons on the back of my bike.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Okay, so we covered everything from kind of a enduro ride, an adventure ride, a beginning ride. But what would you use if you wanted to do all the pigtails from your neck of the woods up in South Dakota?
And I love my Yamaha FJR. It keeps, and my bike is also 20 years old, my primary, but I've got several FJRs. But it is just that perfect amalgamation of sport bike twisties for the twisty roads in the mountains, and nice and stable at highway speeds, and not too portly and unwieldy to take on shale roads for 1,700 kilometers up to the Arctic Circle.
Wow.
Yeah, of course, in the Black Hills, riding your pigtail bridges and the Needle Highway, the iconic bike is obviously the Harley Davidson or the Indian motorcycles. Well
Right.
represented with Sturgis right there.
Oh, that's fun. So we only touched on 5% of the different types of riding that are out there and the different types of motorcycles. But I think what it illustrates is that there is so much to this sport. There's so many ways to do it.
There is no wrong way to enjoy motorcycle.
Hey friends, I want to take a minute to tell you about Campfire Ranch. My friend Sam started Campfire Ranch several years ago, and his goal, his mission, is to energize places by creating meaningful human experiences in the outdoors. At all of the Campfire Ranch locations, from their campgrounds to trailside lodges to backcountry huts, their goal is to help you stay in the place and in the way that you want so that you can spend more time getting out there and getting after it. Campfire Ranch Little Sugar is a trailside lodge located in Bella Vista, Arkansas, just north of Bentonville, the mountain bike capital of the world. The lodge features 7 private bedrooms with ensuite bathrooms and communal spaces for gathering, meeting with others, and relaxing after a long day on the trails. Little Sugar has immediate access to 160-plus miles of public trails designed for mountain biking, gravel biking, trail running, and hiking, and it also has easy access to the food, art, and music scene of downtown Bentonville. So grab some buddies and go to www.campfireranch.co/ASP. That's not .com, it's .co/ASP, and you'll get 15% off nightly base rates at Little Sugar in Bella Vista, Arkansas. And this opportunity is valid all the way through 2026. But you know how these things go. Your weekend is going to fill up quickly, so go right now to campfireranch.co/ASP to plan your big adventure. Well, let's talk about some of the amazing things that you've done enjoying motorcycles for a little bit. So we talked about the Iron Butt Rally, 11,000 miles in 11 days, and that's cool. But we need to talk about this. It was about a 100,000-mile trip, Australia, Canada, U.S., You're visiting all the states and provinces in these 3 countries. Is that what's going on?
Well, what we were doing is, and we is my friend Ian McPhee. He and I were competitors against each other in several Iron Butt rallies.
Okay.
And we happened to, in 2019, which was the year that I won, we happened to have long sections of our route planning that overlapped, and it overlapped in such a way that we had to stick together. We were visiting the islands around Vancouver, British Columbia, and we had to take a series of like 5 or 6 ferries in between islands and document something on each island. And there was only one way to string all these things together and make the timing work. So we had to stick together for the better part of a day, which is really unusual in this event. And we found that our rhythms just aligned naturally. We didn't have any communications connected in our helmets or anything. And our speed was the same, and our style of riding and our fuel range. So having only ridden together as competitors, he called me up following the rally and he said, I had this idea. I want to ride my motorcycle in 49 US states minus Hawaii. I said, well, that's boring. Everybody does that. He said, I want to write it in alphabetical order. And I said, well, that sounds ridiculous. Totally.
You need some big ramps.
Yeah. So he is Australian, and he and I, like I said, we'd not ridden together on purpose prior to this. We'd only been competitors. So we decided to add the Australian states in alphabetical order as well as a shakedown ride to see. This is, we figure, again, low risk, high reward attempt to shake down and see if we could work together well. In order to get alphabetically to the states, we start in Alabama. The next state is Alaska. So the ride we did across Canada was a connector leg too. So that didn't count. The miles in Australia didn't count towards the Guinness World Record, and the miles in Canada didn't count. Only the miles we rode together within the country of our choosing, which happened to U.S.
Wow. So you want to do them alphabetical. That means that you're going to be traveling over states that you're not going to count until you come back and do it again in the right order. Is that the way it worked?
It absolutely did. And it's just, it's absurd. And everybody's like, well, why would you do that? And it's, we just love motorcycles. It was just an excuse. It didn't make any more sense to us at the time than it does sound like when I'm explaining it to you now. But it was just an excuse to get out there and spend some miles on the road and see how much of this continent we could see. But so he had decided that you can't just touch the border of each state because that would be cheating. That wouldn't really count as visiting the state. So we had to go photograph the state capitol building of each state.
Oh, yeah, that gets you in the middle somehow.
Yes. So there were times that we went from Virginia to Washington to West Virginia, and in the crisscross going from the far East Coast, far West Coast, back to the far East Coast, we drove right past the West Virginia Capitol. We waved to it on our way past.
We had to come back. That's hilarious.
Yep.
Okay, so just so people can think about this, I don't know if I can actually do this. We have, in alphabetical order, I'm not going to do all 50 states, but so Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, and then is it California? And then it would be Connecticut, then Delaware. It just keeps going, but if people, Colorado, I skipped Colorado. That's where I am. But the point I'm trying to make is that we're going back and forth, coast to coast and north to south, and we're hopscotching all, and this is a big area. I mean, the United States, what is it? I think it's like 3,000 miles from New York to Los Angeles or something like that. So, wow, that's a lot.
Approximately. It is. So the base distance was about 66,000 miles doing the states alphabetically like that. And then we decided, because this planning had started in late 2019, early 2020, then the pandemic hit. And then we had all the time in the world to sit and fiddle with this plan. And at some point we were looking at this going, well, I wonder if there's a world record. I had known the person that had set the individual world record for the longest continuous journey. And I was thinking, I wonder what the current team record is. And there didn't happen to be a team record, but they agreed to let us make the attempt, and they set our benchmark on the existing solo record. So it was like 72,000 miles was our benchmark. And then we built a little more on there for buffer. So our final ride plan was 83,000 miles in 80 days within the U.S.
In 80 days?
That was the plan.
So we're doing over 1,000 miles a day for 80 days?
We were. And part of the complicating factor is because this was in the periphery of COVID, he, as an Australian, was not able to apply for a longer tourist visa for his trip to California. They had just opened for applications for longer tourist visas a couple of weeks before we started travel. And as soon as they announced that they were taking the applications again, it immediately had like a 9-month wait. So there was no possible way for him to get that longer visa. So we were working within the parameters of a 90 visa. So
oh, goodness. That drives the record, I guess.
It did. It gave us a very, what we thought to be a very fixed pivot point in there that we had to work within.
Wow. That's crazy. So you wrote a book about this trip, and it sounds delightful. It's called Pushing Miles, and then the subtitle is A Chronicle of Motorcycles, Mayhem, and Metal. And I understand there is a lot of mayhem. Tell us about the things that happened along the way.
Oh, my goodness. So it started 70 miles from home. We were setting up a service depot in a town called Odell, Illinois, just because it was about smack dab in the middle of the country. We would crisscross past it enough times that we could put all of our service tools and equipment and fluids and et cetera in this location. So I was trailering both of our motorcycles to that starting point, 70 miles from my house. I hit a deer and I totaled my car.
No way.
And I'm standing on the side of the highway in the middle of the night, with Ian on the phone, and I said, at least we got all of our bad luck out of the way early.
Oh,
And
knock on wood.
we said that at least once a day, every single day for the next 6
That's crazy. You know,
it,
my son's truck is in the shop right now today because a deer jumped in front of it, and you can't do anything about it. You cannot miss a deer if they jump right in front of you. It's just gonna happen.
Yep. And
Man.
it was the first time I've ever hit anything bigger than I could eat in a single sitting. So I was not prepared for the amount of damage that it caused. Just it stepped boop, right in front of me. So,
Oh.
but you figure that has never happened in my lifetime. We'll be all right. That was a left field thing. And then the replacement vehicle that I got broke down. Never had a problem with that before. All of a sudden, I'm desperately trying to get that running again so I don't miss my flight out of the country to Australia. Then we had all these problems in Australia. Then I had an emergency surgery in Australia. And
No way.
every single one of these things there was no precedent for this amount of stuff going wrong. So we, with the greatest of optimism, kept saying, well, the statistical probability of things continuing to go wrong at this rate is effectively zero, right? So we'll just keep on going.
Did you ever think that someone was trying to tell you something?
Oh, I don't think we're bright enough. Like we are deliberately at one point in Australia, I hit a kangaroo and I got the bike picked up and I'm checking myself over and I'm, flinging my arms to get the kangaroo away. And Ian turns around and comes back and we sit there and, we're kind of doing this damage control and we both pause for a minute, look at each other. And we go, can't tell anybody about this because smarter people than us are going to tell us to stop. What? Are you listening to these signs from the universe? Maybe you guys should pack it in and call it a day. Try this another time.
That's crazy. So what else happened? Can you just list some more like this and this and this and that?
So a few hours before we were supposed to be on the plane back to the U.S., I had ended up in emergency surgery for kidney stones in Australia.
Oh, no.
That I'd never had kidney stones before. Ian, it was too late for him to cancel his flight or to rebook his flight. He'd have to pay for a whole new ticket. So he flew back to the US without me. So that started his visa clock ticking while I am in the hospital in Australia for a week. So we were behind the eight ball right from the get-go. So he went to Australia, to Alaska without me. So that screwed up our entire trajectory. We lost a bunch of miles by not riding together. And then he started having a lot of mechanical difficulty. And I don't want to, bash away at the poor BMW. He was riding a 21-year-old BMW R1100 RT, and It had never given him a minute's trouble before this. But we had trouble with leaking seals and his clutch slipping, and he bent rim. He hit a pothole and broke his frame in half on his motorcycle, like. Not hyperbolically, literally, just his left side passenger foot peg mount was the only thing holding the halves of his bike together. And all of these things are such wild left field occurrences. Like there was no precedent for such carnage with such regularity. But I had a second procedure because of my kidney stones, and It was supposed to be outpatient, and that went awry, so I ended up in the hospital for 8 more days. Ian got COVID. We were down for a week with Ian with COVID, and then our grand crescendo, 800 miles shy of our Guinness World Record minimum mileage, the gearbox exploded on his bike in the middle of the Nevada desert.
Seriously?
Yep. So, and it was funny. I was saying, I will buddy tow you if I have to get 800 miles on these two bikes. And I'm looking through my bag and, oh yeah, the ratchet strap we could have used to buddy tow you was now it had been cut to length and was using to hold his saddlebag on, which broke off his bike and went skittering down the freeway when his frame snapped when he hit the pothole.
This is crazy.
It is so wild. I mean, so statistically improbable to have so many unrelated things going wrong, just like one comet strike after the next.
And you say lightning can't strike twice in the same place, but it does.
My goodness. It absolutely does. And it's, we had created a WhatsApp group with a very small number of people that knew we were doing this ride. We wanted to make it completely under the radar so we could keep the pace we needed, and we didn't want to have interruptions or interference from outside folks. And so we had a handful of people on a WhatsApp group that we kept abreast of our daily activities. And every day they're like, will you please stop saying you got all of your bad luck out of the way early? You're just bringing it upon yourself at this point. Like, I am afraid to check my messages in the morning and see what fell off of somebody's bike last night or somebody's body. So it was a comedy of errors for sure.
Well, how did you get that last 800 miles in?
So it wasn't just the last 800 miles. We actually did, remember the Guinness minimum was like 72,000, but our personal goal was 83,000. So we had a buffer.
Yes.
So this is where comes in, I think, something that all of us can relate to when you really step out of your comfort zone and get out in the world, is as soon as you put yourself out there and ask for help, people 99% of the time are awesome, and they want to be part of your adventure, and they want to share a little bit of their world with you. And that's something that we very quickly found is, as far as we could tell, we have exhausted the complete number of oilhead BMW clutch plates in this country. But I know some mom and pop out there has these sitting on their shelf. So we put something out on the internet. Does anybody have a local mom and pop shop that they think has this? Can you make some phone calls and let us know? So not only did we find somebody, we were in Denver. We had just cleared out Euromoto Electrics of all of their parts. And somebody in Pennsylvania said, I found a shop in Virginia that has your parts, and they have the specialty tools they will loan you to install these seals that you need. He left his house, rode from Pennsylvania to Virginia to pick up the parts for us, and was riding them out to us in Illinois so we could meet him out there to make the repairs that we needed.
Wow.
Why? No other reason than he wanted to play a little part in our adventure. He just wanted to see our crazy dream kept alive for one more day. And the number of people, we had a issue where his exhaust broke and was creating issues, and we had made calls. We made a lot of calls. Like the whole coming day, every town we projected to be through of any size, we were calling to see if there was anybody that could help weld it up. Very quick, it's a 2-minute job. We could pull it all the way down for you so you can repair this for us. We couldn't get anybody that was available and willing to help. And so we said, let's pull off the freeway. Let's have a coffee. Let's do a reset. We'll come up with another plan. So we pull off the freeway, and at the stop sign on the off-ramp, right in front of us is a mobile welding truck. And Ian and I kind of look at each other and go, okay, well, we're not going to be creepy, but if he stops in this little 2-horse town, we'll follow him over. Sure enough, he stops in town. We pulled up behind him and explained the situation. He said, oh, yeah, come on around the corner, man. I'll hook you up. No problem at all. Just
nice.
Took the time out of his day. And Ian said, well, can I pay you? Can I get you a case of beer or something? He said, absolutely not, man. Us bikers got to stick together. I'm just happy to help. This is really cool. I hope you guys succeed. And it was, around every corner. And I think ultimately that is what kept us going, because we had this ever growing, just beautiful tapestry of people out there in this world that just happened to be in the right place, just happened to read the right post and said, you know what? Yeah, I can do that. I can help you guys. I'm here for you. And then, they were in the background cheering us on, so it was a success that we wanted for everybody that had invested something in seeing us succeed.
I love it. What came to mind just then, Wendy, is that I don't like to talk politics on this show, so I'm not going to accept to say that it seems like the major parties want to create division, and we start distrusting our fellow humans. And if you don't get out and find out that people are great, then you might be missing something. Because right now, the media is feeding us a lie. Humanity, people are wonderful. And how did this trip change your view of humanity? Or maybe you had already realized this in your prior travels, but how does that impact you?
It absolutely has. And I think the biggest impact it has had on me is seeing how it has impacted my daughter. And she is 11 years old now, but she has ridden motorcycles with me all around the world. And I took a long trip in Pakistan, and she will tell you that is her favorite place in the world to visit.
Wow.
From the time that she's small, she's ridden in our sidecar rig. And so she and I have explored all over Mexico together, and Nepal, all through the Himalayas. And so as far as she knows, like all kids grow up having adventures around the world in
Oh,
sidecars.
wow.
But it's also, she has absolutely no qualms in saying, when people start making xenophobic comments, she said, no, when we lived in Mexico, we stopped and asked somebody where the bathroom is, and they said, mi casa is su casa, and then let us use their bathroom, and then we played with their bunny, and they made us dinner. And that's like, she's very happy to say, no, my experience all around the world is that, no, they're actually super cool. They're, very welcoming, very warm, the vast majority. And you need to put yourself out there. And again, it's part of the beauty of traveling by motor, is you put yourself out there in a way that makes it really, really cool. The interactions that would not have come with any other mode of travel. But that's my big takeaway, is watching her go fearlessly out into the world, knowing, when she and I were going to be riding our sidecar rig down to Ushuaia at the southern tip of South America when the pandemic hit, and that's how we ended up living in Mexico. And to see those experiences and the impact that they have had on her, I just hope that somewhere she's got this fearless spirit that she takes on to the next generation, and it continues to be happy to say, no, it's not exactly like you've heard. Get out there and do it. I have people that are shocked that I ride down here in Mexico by myself. And where I was going with our South America tour is, a lot of people are like, South America, that's dangerous. And it's like, well, that's saying that North America is dangerous. Don't go to Nova Scotia because there's gun crime in Chicago. And it's like, one, that's marginally misinformed if you're being streetwise about where you're going and how you conduct yourself. But two, it is a continent. There is such a wide, array of situations and communities and cultures and politics. But most definitely, so many good people. Can't say that enough.
I love that. That is so, and I'm just thinking about the wonderful gift you've given your daughter to take her on these sorts of experiences. That's so beautiful.
It's something that I frequently have people in our niche of motorcycle travel and competition. I'm fairly well known, so she has seen people come up to inspiration and things like that, and I like to talk to her about the women in our country that, fought for our rights to ride motorcycles and wear pants and vote. And those are the women like we are standing on their shoulders. But when I took her to Pakistan, we were eating at a restaurant that was owned by a woman. She was the first woman in the entire Hunza Valley to own her own business. And she was telling my then 9-year-old daughter, I had people try to set my business on fire. They were vandalizing, spray painting my business. They would spit on me in the street. And I would go home in tears every single day going, I don't know why I keep doing this. And then she just swelled with pride. But now there is another woman that owns a business. And it still gives me chills that my daughter spoke to the woman that is changing her world today. Yes. That is, such a powerful thing. That there are still women like the ones that we see in our history books, not to the extent that we should be, but we are starting to see women getting credit where credit is due for the work they've done in this country. And to know there are still women out there fighting that fight is really important.
I just had a horrible idea, Wendy. What if you held a 10,000 female motorcycle rally in Afghanistan?
So there's an event called the Women Riders World Relay that they did their first event in 2019, and they're going to be coming back this next year with a slightly modified version of the relay. But the concept was they had a physical wooden baton, and the baton started in the UK, and it was passed from woman rider to woman rider through 120 countries around the world, through tens of thousands of women riders. I also
Nice.
happened to be carrying a baton with me when I won the Iron Butt Rally, which was really, really amazing. And yeah, that was an absolutely incredible feat to link together women in a lot of countries where women can't ride unescorted. There was a lot of difficulties getting across borders where women needed permission from their parents or their spouses in order to travel. Timing across an incredible variety of climates and political and weather climates. It was an incredible undertaking. And then also coming up this next year, there's a all women's motorcycle ride in Pakistan that will be teaching local women to ride their own motorcycles in Pakistan. And for the most part, they are not allowed to pilot their own motorcycles unescorted. So we're just in the last few years starting to see more women in Pakistan learning to ride and, just pushing that envelope a little bit more, but giving them those skills to get out there on their own, to maintain their own bikes, like how to service and do their regular maintenance, and that just a little bit more of independence is a really fantastic
That's
event.
so wonderful. What I have found, Wendy, and I think hopefully people generally agree that it seems there's a very small minority of people who have some ideology that creates so much trouble for everybody else, especially when they have the power.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to these places where women are fighting for their rights, for just what we would consider in the West a normal existence, you have to remember most of the people in that country probably don't care that much about it. It's the ideology that's driving some sort of an elite group at the top. And when you ride a motorcycle in a place like that, you are a witness. You are a testimony. You're saying, look, all I have to do is ride through here, and you see that I am a woman who can do this very well as anybody, irregardless, and I'm doing it, and wake up. Mm-hmm. That takes guts, though. Has it ever made you nervous?
I don't know. I always have. There's always that little bit of nerves. There's that first step. Leaving home is the hardest, no matter what it is that you're setting out to do. And that I have ridden more than 1 million miles all around the world, and that still holds true to me today. Is that first, just getting to the far side of town? Is everything secure? I've got everything. Thinking about things that could go wrong on the road, and then you get a little bit down the road, and you're like, I remember why I do. So I
love it.
Yeah, I don't think there's been destinations where I am particularly concerned about destinations. I love underdog countries. That said, I do my research and make sure that I'm making wise choices about my travels. But it's more that, once you PR yourself away, you get off that block, get halfway across town, get halfway across the state, and all of a sudden what seems so potentially scary, again, falls into this beautiful dance. Just get out there and do it.
I love it. So cool. So we haven't covered half of the feats that you've done, but it's so fun what we have talked about. And the name of the book, if you want to know more about that 100,000-mile journey, it's called Pushing Miles, A Chronicle of Motorcycles, Mayhem, and Metal. And Ian McPhee was the partner that you did this feat with, and from Australia. What else do the listeners need to know? How can they find out more about you and what you're up to?
They can go to pushingmiles.com, and that will direct you to where you can get the book. It is a chunky boy. It is 800 pages because there was a never-ending array of things that went wrong. But there is also an abridged version, and there is an audiobook now. It's voiced by my co-author. So they'll find all that information, and there's a lot of bonus material. So every time you find yourself reading through the book going, there's no possible way that can happen, you can hop on the website and find the correlating pictures and videos that
the proof
go along with that particular bit of mayhem. And then that has any of the events that we're speaking at or book tours. I do a lot of motorcycle mechanic workshops, motorcycle first aid workshops, and those will all be listed on the website.
Well, Wendy, I was just thinking how much I could benefit from some of your knowledge. I struggle to work on my motorcycle, but I have to share one thing that I thought was pretty crazy. knocked a hole in my engine block and seized up the engine on a ride a week before my old co-host Travis, which a lot of listeners know, and I were headed out on a big ride. And so I had to swap the engine in my motorcycle while working a full-time job in about 5 days.
Oh, geez.
And so
No pressure.
no pressure, but I figured it out. I couldn't believe it. But had you been there, it would have been easy. But I thought, man, what's the probability I'll actually get to go on this ride? And it seems like I keep running into that over and over again. So I would love to take some of your motorcycle mechanic workshops. That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right around the corner. You'll have to come up and visit, and we'll get you trail ready. But I will say to all of the listeners, remember that adventure is what happens when things stop going to plan and you find a way to keep going.
And that's beautiful.
That is where the story comes from, right?
Absolutely, and that's where the book comes from. I've got to read your book now just because it sounds hilarious, frankly. It sounds so improbable, but here's a testimony for this again, or an example. You just kept going, and you did it. With everything that was going wrong, you're like, no, we're going to go. We're going to keep going. And that tenacity is amazing, but you did it.
It's a little bit tenacity, a little bit stupidity, a little bit unflagging optimism, but we dragged it across the finish line, kicking and screaming.
Oh, that's fantastic. How did you celebrate in the end? What did you and Ian do?
Very interestingly, our 80-day tour became 119 days. And so that is a whole nother story about how we managed to get him another visa. But everything had gone so wrong. We had lost 52 total days to sundry chaos and failures. And we got to the finish line and it felt so anticlimactic because the ride looked nothing like we expected. And so we rolled in and it was about midnight in a, quiet gas station. And we said, well, that's that then. Maybe we should turn around and do the states in reverse order and see if we can get it right next time. But we'd both be broke before we could make that happen. So yeah, it was oddly anticlimactic for having technically made it to the A sort of finish, but it looked nothing like the average of 1,000 mile a day that we had so confidently had in our original ride plan. So and I think a lot of people that do a lot of long travel of any sort can relate to this feeling that when you're doing something big and it comes to an end, it feels like you're being shot out of a cannon into a brick wall. Like all of that momentum that you had built up in your world, and you come to a stop, and then you just look at all of the regular life going on around you, and it's like, these people have no idea that I just did something incredible. Like, it's just very, very disorienting to try to get your speed back to regular life and the world as you know it. You come back changed from every one of these. You're not the same person you were when you left home, 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago or 2 years ago. So it's I think the antidote is to start planning your next adventure.
Well, a very wise travel advisor that I interviewed, I'm going to say 6 years ago, just to guess. She said, never have just one trip planned, always have two. Because when you finish the one, you say, okay, now there's this other one that I get to start working toward, and it helps the letdown. And I love that advice that she gave. But there's another side to this too, and that is that we begin to understand it's not about the summit, it's about the climb.
Absolutely. And I think that's a thing that people have difficulty when they're trying to wrap their head around long distance riding. And it's not for everybody. Most certainly, it's up in there with ultra marathoners and as far as doing crazy stuff just to do it. But a lot of people miss the fact that the beauty is in the doing. It's in the ride.
Yes.
I don't even really need a destination. That's just an excuse to get out and do it. But my happiest place in the world is in the saddle and watching the sunset, over the coast of Nova Scotia, or dancing under the full moon and the desert in the middle of the night in Nevada. There's just so much beauty out there. Stopping and having a random chat with somebody at a gas station and just learning that a little bit. There's still people that I wonder how their adventure carried on after our brief 10 minutes. Like, that is the beauty of just putting yourself out there in the world. You never know when you are going to have that experience that just fuels your soul. You just gotta be out there in the world. Make yourself available to it.
That's a beautiful way to wrap this up. Thank you so much for your time today, Wendy. I enjoyed that immensely, and I'm sure our listeners did too. So to everyone out there, I'm going to put the information that Wendy shared in the show notes so you can find her in her book and that sort of thing. But maybe it's motorcycles, maybe it's bicycles, maybe it's walking, maybe it's, human-powered flight. I don't know what it is, but make sure you find your thing and get out there and have some fun.
Absolutely. Thanks, Curtis. I had a blast.